The city of Hapeville has the highest millage rate in the Atlanta area and a 50% reduction in personal property valuation. What will be your solution to this revenue gap without raising the millage rate?
Well, when you look at the millage rate, definitely 16.61 mills, Hapeville does have a very high millage rate. But when you look at the value of the mill, Hapeville being as small of a town as it is, we only have so many property owners to pay property taxes. Unfortunately, when Ford closed, we lost our single largest taxpayer, our single largest water user, and we lost over $1 million a year in revenue with one closure, and that was devastating to the city. I believe the redevelopment of the Ford plant, assuming that the Porsche deal comes to fruition, will shine a bright light on the city, and I believe it will attract people, as we've all mentioned, into wanting to move back into Hapeville and take advantage of our location. That's one thing the real estate people said the other day. The location of Hapeville makes it a very attractive place for future residents.
So we do have a high millage rate. Again, in line with Alan, we also have excellent value for the amount of taxes that we pay. You might check with someone in the city of Atlanta who may have a lower millage rate, but ask them what kind of public services or public safety they have. And it may be that we have to take the bitter pill and raise the millage rate if our property values don't level out at some point. But that doesn't mean they can't go back down once the property values go back up. I think it's important to keep the amount of revenue that we have to provide the services that we have. Our employees have been stoic. They've not had a raise in 6 years. So I would kind of like to do a little something for them. Thank you very much.
We do have an extremely high millage rate, and I'm going to tell you this again. There is not much development out there. There are not very many businesses moving. What a coup Atlanta had when they talked Porsche into moving out here. That's why we need someone in our economic development department now out there trying to grab every opportunity that comes along. We cannot wait for Jacoby or Bill O'Brien to come to this city and develop us, folks. We have got to save ourselves, and we have got to have someone in this department leading us in that direction. It will not happen on its own. It is not going to happen if developers come here on their own. We need a plan, and we need someone to implement it.
To everyone, in regards to this year's budget, what changes would you like to see, Ms. Bailey?
Well, I would like to see the budget increase by about $15 or $20 million, but I don't know if that's going to happen. As far as the budget goes, I'll tell you this. I am very fiscally conservative, and that is what I want in an elected official, and that's usually what I use to determine when I vote for anyone who's running for office, regardless of what that office may be. However, I will say to you that I have been trying since the first week in September to get a copy of the final budget. I have been told that, just a few more numbers to plug in. Please be patient. I've been thanked for being patient. As of this morning, that budget is not online. I can't answer any questions for you. You couldn't find them yourself because the budget's not posted online, and it's been 4 months since it's been passed.
Budget changes, along with Susan, I've been looking for it as well. But I believe the mayor and the council worked with the department heads to come up with the most, prudent budget that they could. It follows along the same lines as what we've had in the previous years. I think there are plans for a few of the missing personnel that we have that are already in the budget. I'm not sure the plans for those for when they will be hired. But I think it is important to realize that we do have a sort of a disconnect between information that's available to the public and some of the missing links on our website. But good job for the budget as far as we know.
The budget not being online is unacceptable. I will check into that first thing in the morning because you specifically asked me about that, Diane, and I was assured that would be taken care of, so that's unacceptable. 2 minutes sure does fly by when you're answering questions.
Thank goodness sometimes.
The one thing I would like to see in the budget would be a raise for our employees. Diane mentioned that they've gone a long time without a raise. The problem is with the uncertainty of the economy, we are trying to hold on. We last audited numbers, we have about a $3.9 million fund balance in reserve. That leaves the city in a very strong financial position and gives us some time to weather the current economic climate that we're in. We've been very conservative in our budgeting. We have to do the budget before we get the tax digestion for Fulton County, which is very difficult to do. And of course, we have to prepare and plan for what may happen in the digest next year, because I am anticipating a decrease in commercial property tax values to hit us next year. So that will be 3 years in a row of declining property values, and it's very difficult to manage all of this. But we are a very conservative council. We work well together. We're watching expenses. We're watching personnel. And we're just trying to, like we're all doing in our own personal lives, we're just trying to weather difficulties.
This is for Susan Bailey. In 2007, millage rate had to be increased in order to pay and sustain our city services. You voted against it, and the minutes show that. Do you still stand by your vote? If faced with the same scenario and have to split the vote if elected, would you still vote against it?
Mayor Hallman will agree with this, I am sure. That was one of the most difficult decisions that we had to make. That is fooling and playing around with your money. 4 mills is a very large increase. I thought about it. I labored over it. I lost sleep over having to do that. We had meeting after meeting after meeting. We discussed every scenario possible to save money without having to cut services. In the end, and up to the last minute when that vote was taken, I sat and I thought about it. The millage rate increase was 4. I voted no for that. I could probably have lived with 2 because we clearly had to do something. The city was about to start operating in a deficit. But I will say to you, when it came to 4, I thought, no, I cannot do that. Maybe if we do 2, that'll buy us a little bit of time. And maybe we can come up with some other way of saving money. But it also occurred to me that a 4 mil increase might make the difference in some people on fixed income buying their medication or not, and I could not do it at that time.
Each scenario is different and circumstances are different. And as I related earlier, we don't know what next year will be. And it may be that we do have to raise it up. My thinking on that would be to have meetings, neighborhood association, town hall meetings, receive the information from the citizens as to whether that would be acceptable to them, consider what kind of services you would want to cut if that was not necessary. Being an old banker and finance person, you have to balance your budget, and it's either got to be one way or the other. So I empathize with those who make those decisions and encourage input from the citizens.
That's exactly what we have, is a lot of input from citizens. We stood before a room at the Hapeville Senior Center that had about this many people, if not more. And we said to them, we can cut your services or we can raise your taxes. It was a very difficult decision, but the solution to that problem was simple. It was one way or the other. It was very difficult to make up a gap of 4 mills, because that's about what we lost when we lost 4. It was about 4 mills in tax value. At that time, the mill was worth about $280,000 per mill. And it was a very difficult decision. But the citizens resoundingly said, because I said, we can close one of the fire stations, we can privatize our ambulance, we can privatize 911, and we'll just become another town. We'll lose all the quality services that we have. And the citizens resoundingly said, raise my taxes, but don't cut my